Okay. This is Walter Simonson for 11 O'Clock Comics. Tune in.
This is Louise Simonson from 11 O'Clock Comics. It's awesome.
We'll accept it.
You sure?
Yeah, I think you're on the green.
All right.
It's a hell of a putt, but you're on the green.
Yeah. I mean,
that's all you can ask for, really.
Power.
Yeah. You see that new freaking Limu Emu commercial where they're on a golf green and the guy's like, he's the guy that's with Limu the Emu. He's pretending to Doug, pretending to coach the guy that's putting, like, okay, now you want to save with Liberty Mutual. This is bullshit. And the golfer's like, yeah, okay, but can you tell your bird to stop chewing up the green? And the emu is like digging holes in the green. It's the dumbest commercial ever. Like, how do these things? They are dumb. They are dumb. How do these things get made? I don't know.
Well, because how does this get made?
Well, this gets made with a whole bunch of love. Because
that's right.
Yeah, this is 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 989. 11 left, and I am Vince B.
11 left, yes. Oh, man, the B stands for bummer. I am David A. Price.
That is true, and of course, I am everyone's favorite Presto Digitator. I am Cheech Wizard.
Cheech Wizard's duds make a brief appearance in there, yes, but you're not Cheech Wizard. You can't really see under the hat. So you could be.
That's right.
But you're not.
You seem a big feet.
You're Jason. You're Jason. They're very misleading, people. You're Jason Woo. Everybody.
Hey now. Hey. Hey now. Ooh.
All together on this episode, just talking the love of comics, brought to you by cheapgraphicnovels.com. I was looking for the Transformer sound, the actual transforming sound, and I was going to play it and say, transform into savings with cheapgraphicnovels.com. But I swear, it must be copyrighted because every wave file I found was not quite the sound. It was almost the sound. And I want the sound. So I'm going to have to probably pull it from a DVD or something. Transform into savings with cheapgraphicnovels.com. They have everything you want. OGNs, trade paperbacks, manga, omnibus editions, art books, all that stuff at a fraction of the retail price. You're going to flip the book over, look at the retail price, you're going to chortle. You're going to giggle to yourself because you ain't paying that. You're paying the new price, the revamped price, the lower price. And if you're a first-time customer, what you want to do is order one or two things just to show your interest. You know what I mean? Wink at the girl. And then you're going to receive an email confirmation for your order. And you're going to tell Max, you're going to respond to it. You reply to it. You're going to tell Max that you would never, ever have known about cheapgraphicnovels.com if not for the three wise men at 11 O'Clock Comics. And you are, 2.5. And you are going to get free shipping on your second order. That's crazy. It's unheard of in this day and age, free shipping. And guess what? They also have specials.
What? Ooh, do they have specials?
They do.
It's a pretty fun week. This week's specials include DC Finest Wonder Woman, The Legend of Wonder Woman for $23.99. In this volume, readers can experience these out-of-print adventures taking place in the year before the game-changing Crisis on Infinite Earths. In these tales, written by Dan Mishkin with art by luminaries such as, including Don Heck, Diana faces signature bows, including Cersei, Cheetah, Dr. Cyber, and more. Plus, this collection includes The Legend of Wonder Woman by writer Kurt Busiek and artist Trina Robbins, presenting a then-contemporary 1980s take on the iconic hero, filtered through a Golden Age aesthetic. This volume collects stories from Wonder Woman numbers 306 through 329. DC Comics presents number 76, Blue Devil number 10, and the 4-issue Legend of Wonder Woman miniseries. Madman Omnibus Volume 1 trade paperback, $34.99. This 680-page volume collects Madman's adventures from 1990 to 1996, reprinting, for the record, Madman Original Series numbers 1 through 3, Madman Adventures numbers 1 through 3, and Madman Comics numbers 1 through 10. Michael Allred's first foray into comics, called They, and featuring bonus pinups and art by some of comics' greatest talent, like Frank Miller, Jack Kirby, Mobius, Frank Frazetta, Emily Carroll, and more. And finally, Strike Force Morituri Omnibus. There's a regular and market cover. $74.99. A savage alien race called the Horde has invaded Earth, enslaving its people and plundering its resources. Scientists have devised a method of fighting back the Morituri process, which grants enhanced abilities to a select few compatible humans. But the transformation is fatal within a year. Now, a handful of brave volunteers make up Strike Force Morituri, an elite, experimental, and highly effective fighting force against the Horde's depredations. But the heat of every battle, the celebration of every victory, and every quiet moment alone is tainted by the inescapable knowledge that, win or lose, their fate is sealed. The war against the Horde will be filled with monstrous twists and turns, but when it's finally over, will mankind prove victorious? And where will that leave the surviving members of Strike Force Morituri? Collects the 1986 series, all 31 issues, plus Strike Force Morituri Electric Undertow, numbers 1 through 5.
We talked about Strike Force Morituri way back in episode 199 in 2010.
Dang it!
That's a long time
And now
ago.
we finally have it on the bus.
So excited for that one.
Just like cheapgraphicnovels.com, all good things come to those who wait. But you're not going to wait very long at cheapgraphicnovels.com because shipping is lickety-split. And you're going to save. Just go there. I have a question about Cheetah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, that's random.
No, it's not random because he did the Wonder Woman thing.
I mentioned it.
Yeah. This is coming from someone who hasn't read a ton of Wonder Woman. I read and enjoyed the Perez versions. I read the John Byrne version, but my experience, and I read the 60s wackadoodle James Bond pastiche Wonder Woman version.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, all right, humor me. Is Cheetah, is that a costume, or is she actually covered in fur?
I think it depends on the era.
I was going to say that the current one, Minerva, Barbara Minerva, turns into a cat creature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mammals, for the sake of their newborns, don't usually have hair on their mammary glands.
Uh-huh.
Because then how is the baby going to suckle if the nipple's covered with hair? So why isn't Cheetah topless?
Because it's a DC comic.
I know, I get that. But, I mean, in reality, she would be. Right?
If she was purely anatomically correct, yes, she would be.
That's kind of hot. I hope that the Absolute Wonder Woman eventually fights the Cheetah. Because maybe we'll see an anatomically correct Cheetah.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be salacious or bawdy. It could just be real.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
Remember D-Dub's version? Cat hands?
I do.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
It was a little crazy.
That's one of the Wonder Woman books I actually paid for.
I remember.
And I have it on my shelf, yes.
Same.
Yeah. Okay, we got to give it up because we got not one, not two, but 3
Oh, shit.
new patrons.
Check yourself.
Big hugs and a pat on the back for Mr. Spencer Bills. I don't know
What
if
up,
that
Spence?
I don't know if that name is real, and I don't care because it's a very cool name. Abedali Fazal, again, cool name, and someone with whom we're very familiar, back in the fold, Mr. Christopher Burton.
Yes.
So give
Back
it on
sooner,
up.
Sooner than I expected. I thought he was taking the summer off, so
That's great.
nice to have him back.
Thank you, people, for joining the family. We hope you do not regret your decision.
You can always leave and come
Too
back
late.
when you do.
Yeah.
When you do.
Yeah.
I'm drinking, but it's just water.
Oh, my man. Look at you.
Yeah, blackberry lime.
So proud of you.
Aw.
I'm drinking... I mean, I have a big thing of water here, but I'm right now drinking some grape G0.
Well, like the Wonder Twins, I do have water in the form of ice cubes. In this glass of it felt like a Michter's day, so I'm having some Michter's straight Kentucky bourbon.
Nice.
Nectars.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Word.
So comics.
We read some.
We read a bunch.
Did read some.
A lot. Yeah, we did read a lot. A lot of like lengthy subject matter.
Yeah.
There is one to rule them all, though, this week.
Do tell.
There's one of massive import that
Sure.
I didn't think
karmic. Yeah.
Yes, I didn't think we'd see ever in this pristine state.
Right.
We're talking about Vaughn Bode's complete Deadbone Erotica, published by Image and Shadowline. Bode is one of those artists that, like Jack, I don't think you can overstate his importance.
Yeah.
And not only to comics and cartooning, but his influence. This guy had a massive fallout. Not only in his character creation, his drawing, his layout. Bode never met a corner he didn't want to round off. So very organic layouts. His storytelling ability, sometimes he would just do a little vignette instead of like a full-blown conversation or story with a threadbare plot. But sometimes he just did this little thing where something happened, and it was an exercise in exploring drawing and layout and design instead of actual storytelling. I mean, there was a kernel of a story there, but more often, a lot of the times, he would just draw, and whatever came out of him, like that was a strip for this page. But all that stuff, gigantic influence on typography. If you know your graffiti and you look at the history of graffiti art, Bode had a titanic effect on graffiti artists. And if you didn't, there was a point where if you didn't tag a Bode character, like you weren't in the game, you know. And just the way he played with letter forms and typography, like that burst upon the graffiti scene. Like everybody was doing it at one point. And he also had a profound effect on language. A lot of Bode's characters, they speak in this phonetic little affected speech pattern. And you see that now, like, where would Cerebus be? All of the characters in Cerebus, the way Dave Sim would do those little inflections and vocal bits phonetically. That's Vaughn Bode, man. He was like one of the first guys to do that. The guy has, and his work has been, unfortunately, ripped off by the best of them. People like to tip the hat to Ralph Bakshi, the thief, but Wizards is an abject plagiarism of Bode's work.
Yeah, I learned that just recently. Now I know over the years I've brought up Bakshi and you've always besmirched him. I didn't
because he sucks. Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, that's a different conversation.
No.
But why? Like, if you had just explained the Bode theft, I would have more understood because I really had no idea until
I didn't mention that. I think I did. I had to because that's the big chip on my shoulder with Ralph Bakshi. The rotoscoping,
yeah.
I hate that, and I think it's very lazy. But rotoscoping alone is not going to make me hate your work. If you rip off Vaughn Bode, I can't stand you. You're done.
Yeah, I watched a YouTube interview with Mark Bode. It was like an hour-long thing. I did the deep dive, and Mark discussed that at length, and I was just like, God damn.
Yeah. Well,
for those that don't know, so Ralph Bakshi was actually Vaughn Bode's agent for a while. They were close friends. And
even worse.
When Vaughn died of auto asphyxiation, shortly thereafter he released Wizards, and as Vince said, it was literally a outright thievery of many of Bode's concepts. And he didn't even bother to credit him or say inspired by, even though it was clearly just a lift. And again, and obviously there's three sides to every story, but as Mark tells it, he and his mom were absolutely abjectly destitute, poor at the time. Like he said they were basically begging for scraps of food to eat. They didn't have a home, and dudes out here making movies, stealing their dad's work without even like crediting him. And then he said that Bakshi called him like a couple of years ago during the pandemic to apologize. And Mark was like, "You can go fuck yourself."
And I don't blame him. I would have said the same thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I was just like, man, I did not know that. Like you said, it's well known. I was not aware of that until very recently.
Yeah. And Bakshi fucked up the Lord of the Rings. How do you fuck up the Lord of the Rings? But he found a way. Found a way. So, I mean, aside with let's get rid of the negativity. But this collection, the reproduction is amazing. Like, this is a testament to Vaughn Bode. It's a beautiful, oversized book, heavy paper stock. All of the strips are just so beautifully reproduced. I don't know. I doubt that they were shot from the original art. I don't even know if a lot of that stuff even exists these days. But there's not a lot of moire, or there's not a lot of visual artifacting with the work. So if they were scanned from Cavalier magazine, the place where most of this stuff originally appeared, then whoever was doing the production work, man, they got their head screwed on right, because this book looks great.
And credit to Image too, because this is a book I would more have expected to see from Fanta, or
easily. Yeah, right.
In fact, I was actually surprised when we were getting ready to do the show, and I was getting all the books that I read that I want to talk about here by my side, so I could reference them if I needed to. I actually was like, "Oh shit, this was Image."
Yeah.
I mean, like, I guess I obviously knew that when I pre-ordered it, because it would have been in the Image section, but I honestly didn't. Like, after reading it when it came last week, I fully thought I was reading a Fanta book. Like, I was like, I'm just shocked that Image did it. So kudos to them. Yeah.
Big tip of the hat to Valentino. He's no fool. He knows the good stuff. Yeah. And I'm just giddy that this book has even been published. I have a lot of these in various editions and actual pages torn out of Cavalier magazine, but this is a one-stop shopping. Like, I could just go to the shelf and pull this off and just revel in Bode's imagination, because that's all this book is. It's just world building, pure Bode imagination. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, I really appreciate this, like, well above and beyond the idea of just reading it like you'd read a comic to decide if, for the enjoyment of it. Because, like you said, I mean, Bode is kind of this transcendent figure, but, he died when I was 6 months old, right? I mean, it wasn't like he was ever really a person. He wasn't ever really like a known creative force in my life. In fact, maybe I'd heard of him before, but the first time I can remember distinctly thinking of his name was in the Beastie Boys "Sure Shot" song, which was 1994, because it was such a distinctive line from it, and so at some point between then, which was 30 years ago, and now, I feel like I had done the work to learn about Bode, and I've seen many of his strips or artwork, and so I'm familiar with his characters and his style and his history. But like you said, I hadn't ever, at least to my memory, read much of his work. I mean, I'm sure I'd read, again, little things in like the Wits End collection, or I'm sure I've come across bits and pieces of his work over the years, such that it's kind of all all combines in my mind along with the of trying to learn about him. But this is the first time I've ever gotten to sit down and experience a big chunk of his work in a proper archival form, and so that alone made the whole experience phenomenal, regardless of the narrative or lack thereof of the stories. Like, I didn't none of that even really mattered once I closed the book. I really enjoyed the karma of the experience, as much of any other part of it.
And I think all of the strips are pretty id inspired. Like, it's just him riffing on a topic, whether it be sex or relationships or war or, you name it. It's all over the map. You have good characters and, quote, bad characters, and it's just an excuse to stir the pot on whatever topic he's covering. More often than not, sex, or thinking about sex, or having sex, or trying to have sex. It's not called erotica for no reason, right? But it's not explicit. I would hesitate to call this R-rated. If some of the language is a little adult, but it's just more often than not, it's just boobs and maybe a little tiny bit of pubic hair. Like, that's it. But the way Bode drew those women, their nipples are huge, right? That's the Bode woman. They all look like these super deformed little sprites with
almost like gnomes.
Yeah, like ample breasts, and he just loved doing that. I'm just in love with this book. Jason, you're Mr. Original Art. I know someone who owns a pencil page from this book.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. Me.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yep. Yeah, Mr. Lance Kaiser gave it to me.
Oh,
That's what's up.
Yeah. And on the back of the artboard, the front of the artboard is the strip, the back of the artboard is just character sketches, character designs, stuff he was working out.
Incredible.
Lance
is such a prince.
He's a wonderful man.
He is.
He's like, oh, you want this? I'm what?
What do you say?
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring up the sexual angles, because I will say that one of my notes here is that it wasn't nearly as sexual as I expected it to be. Because again, the book is, to be fair, called Vaughn Bode's Complete Deadbone Erotica. And when I think of erotica, I do not think of what this book is. To me, erotica is, by definition, overtly sexual. So now again, because of the work itself and the aforementioned karmic joy of having to experience Bode's art, that wasn't problematic, but it was definitely noteworthy to me, because I don't necessarily view the title as appropriate. I wish it was titled something else. Like, even if it was just called Vaughn Bode's Complete Deadbone, or because I don't like, and I understand that it was published. This stuff was mostly published in erotic magazines, so like from a purely specific standpoint, I guess the title fits. But this was way more PG than any erotica that I'm trying to get up on usually.
It's not Brandon Graham.
Yeah, and for the record, I mean, and probably because of that, I probably, if I'm just talking about the stuff I enjoyed of the book, the Bode broad one-pagers are probably the things I enjoyed the most, because they're the most overtly sexual, right? Like, they are sexy women of different types and eras with some kind of, they're like they're the same kind of thing you'd see like in a Playboy cartoon or a Penthouse cartoon. Like, they're just little one-shot cartoons.
But remember, these were done in the early 70s, because Vaughn died in 75. So this was, the language was probably shocking for that time. Right. But, and if you're in Cavalier magazine, like, I don't remember Cavalier from this period showing like everything. Like, Cavalier wasn't Penthouse.
Right.
But there were still naked women in it. So, I think it's more of a Benny Hill type erotica, where it's, Benny had topless women on the show, but it didn't get very explicit. But what was implied was dirtier than what was actually shown. And I think that's a lot in this book, where, especially with the Bode women, it's like, hey, like the girl in the snow. Hey, do you want to thaw out my popsicle? It's funny, but it's not like, oh, you would read that and call the PMRC for comics, or the Comics Code. But it's perfect. There's not a page in this book that's not perfect to me. I love Bode. I always have, and because he was completely unique. There really wasn't, aside from Mark, who draws a lot like Vaughn. Remember Miami Mice?
Yep.
Well, now you're getting to another question I have, and you took so Mark did Miami Mice, I guess, by the fact that you just said remember it, and Dap said, "Yep, you guys have read it."
Oh yeah.
No,
I never heard of it until I and watched that interview.
That was one of the books that came out during the black and white boom. I want to say Apple Comics, was it, or Renegade? Maybe it was one of those.
No, it was actually called Ripoff.
Ripoff Press, right?
Because
Yes.
Mark said, again in this interview, Mark talks about this, and he says that it was actually a real pain in the ass to go to the bank and try and cash the checks because they were like labeled Ripoff, and he was like, they thought it was a fraud.
That's cute. That's funny.
Yeah.
It did, Miami Mice didn't last long, but I thought it was wonderful. But it was very beholden to Dad, but a new thing, and it was anthropomorphic characters in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vein. Like back then, it was the gerbils, the hamsters, the kung fu kangaroos, all that stuff.
Mark said that he was doing Miami Mice and was at a event, and Kevin Eastman was there, and someone said, "Hey, you want to meet Kevin Eastman?" And he was nervous as shit because he thought Kevin was going to be pissed at him for basically stealing from, like, basically completely ripping off Turtles.
No.
And Eastman, he goes in and he's expecting Eastman to tear him a new one, and Eastman is like, "I want you to know I love your dad. He meant so much to me." Like, and they started chatting it up, and then I guess, and again, you guys probably know this, I did not. Eastman co-wrote an issue of Miami Mice shortly thereafter, and then he had Mark do an issue of Turtles.
I remember that.
So I think that's all super cool. Like, that's all good karma, man. Like, I love to hear it.
Well, you can't copyright inspiration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's a lot of copycat things. Just look at television these days and movies. But if I ever made something and somebody did something like it, that wasn't a direct ripoff, that I could get the feeling that there was some kind of inspiration going on, why would you get pissed?
Right.
Besides, Eastman and Laird were living high on the hog back then. They probably didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of crappy ripoffs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I bought them all. Feels like I bought them all. Because comics were like $1, $1.25, $1.50 back then. And so why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, Dap, you bought this too, right?
Yes, it did. Yeah, I had to. I don't have much, by the way, from Vaughn in my collection. So this is pretty much a no-brainer. I'm at the point where even if, and like I said in the notes, like I didn't sit and read this cover to cover. I jumped around a bit. It's not like there's a lot to read sequentially. There aren't too many stories that go from one to the next. So a lot of them are just gag strips or one pagers. So it was easy to kind of just float around a bit. But no, I definitely wanted something like this. It's similar to, that we have from Sunday Funnies, or even, that oversized, the things that I want to keep for archival purposes, for things that matter, that should exist, that we can recall, look back on, and remind others of what came before. But this was definitely it was definitely a no-brainer. As soon as I missed the pre-order, but when I was putting together the specials a week or so ago, I remembered, and then just went right over to CGN and ordered it. So that and Local Man arrived this week. But yeah, it was definitely something that I just wanted to make sure I had. I didn't want to miss the boat on this one. The
hell would you waste money on Local Man? Jeez.
I said, man, there aren't too many things I double dip on these days. But we are mentioned right on the back cover.
Yeah, how about that?
And,
we are.
and it's a nice collection. It really is. It's got smart varnishes, it's got some nice textures on the cover. So yeah, no, it was Image put out some good stuff past couple weeks as far as
I think that was Stray Dogs and Revival money helping to upsell the collection for a local man.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
checkbooks.
Deadbone is one of those things you can pull off the shelf, open it to any page, and just read and enjoy. You can flip around. Yep. It doesn't have to be consecutive. There's a thread of a narrative going through the entire thing, but it's all world building and character interaction. It's just a great book. It's a period, a time capsule of in my opinion, a much better time in comics and creation, but that's just me. So you need this. Vaughn Bode's complete Deadbone erotica.
100%, co-signed 100%. We're going to have to come up with a new list soon of collections that we would like to see, because we have this now. We've gotten ROM, we've gotten Micronauts. We've gotten the DC versus Marvel stuff. I mean, everything that we kind of assumed would never see the light of day for whatever reasons are slowly trickling out.
We got Miracle Man. Got Miracle Man.
Yeah, I mean, so and depending on when you started reading comics or what brought you to the dance, that's what you're kind of be looking for. But yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, there's still a bunch of things I could probably rattle off if given a few minutes that still I would like to see. But I mean, right now we're spoiled these days, and
yeah.
I mean, I'm looking for all the distractions I can get at the moment. But I mean, it is nice to see some things that I never thought I'd be able to have in my home without spending a pretty penny, either back issue diving or going to Mile High or whoever, just to find some random issues here and there. So it's I like this.
I got one right on the top of my head, and it's baffling how this stuff hasn't been reprinted yet. Star Reach. Why the fuck has Star Reach not been reprinted? It just makes no sense to me. There must be some kind of a rights issue, or somebody's holding out, or people have died, but Star Reach was like the best of the best back in the day. P. Greg Russell, Jim Starlin, Neil Adams. The list is so long.
Mike got some good people.
What?
Yeah, I would imagine that. I would imagine there's probably a lot of rights issues. I could assume people were playing fast and loose with royalties and agreements and what was said and what was put on paper. So yeah, there's definitely going to be, and memories aren't what they used to be. So even if somebody says, "Oh, he promised me I'd always be able to, collect this or own this," and it's like, yeah, well, you don't have it in writing, so I don't know what to tell you. It's
publishing is a bitch, as we've seen this week.
Oh, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, before we move on from this, because this led me down a rabbit hole, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. Because again, like this, and I should have. I should try and find before the show's over the YouTube, because it was cool to see a really long discussion of Vaughn's career. But the guy was interviewing Mark Bode, who we've talked about here, his son, and it's very clear and understandable that Mark, he lost his father at a very young age, right? So so in many ways, I think that's. I don't want to psychoanalyze the guy. I'm not, but he came across as someone who's never really been able to get over that. Like he's really carried that with him, and understandably. But again, I wasn't really aware until this diving into all of this that Mark has essentially made his living, and he's 63 years old now. Mark has essentially made his living off of Vaughn's creations. He, as you said, Vince, he continues to draw them. He does murals all over the world of Vaughn's characters. He does. He appears at graffiti conventions and does commissions at Comic-Con. Like he owns all of the characters, and he continues to make his living exclusively from selling these characters, drawing these characters, telling stories with these characters. And it got me thinking, like, there's lots of legacy like people who get offspring who inherit the IP, right? And we could list just tons of them, and yet normally what that entails is them basically just becoming the financial beneficiaries and watchdogs of that IP, right? So like whether it's the Flemings or the Mill, right? Like they own the stuff, and then they have to decide what to do with it, if people can use it, if they're going to monetize it. But they don't themselves continue to create with those characters generally, right? They just own the stuff and then monetize it. And that's just a purely financial sort of thing, and we've had conversations about that in the past of what we all think of that. But this is a different thing, right? This is Mark literally grabbing the baton from his dad and trying to continue to create art with the same concepts and characters. And so it got me thinking, like, at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna let me try and see if I can come up with a list of other people that have done that. And I got to tell you, it was much harder than I expected. I don't think there are too many examples of that. And again, I'm not talking about people that like own the IP and then manage it. Like, that's a different thing. When this thought popped into my head, the only one that immediately came to mind was actually Brian Herbert, who kept writing Dune books, right? But I was like, all right, there's got to be others, and I couldn't find too many, man. I couldn't find too many. So I have two questions for y'all. One, can you think of any off the top of your head? But two, and I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't give you any forewarning. But two, are we good? Is someone like shooting a gun? What's that?
Fireworks.
It's 4th of July Eve, so everybody's got to test their crap.
Got it. Two, do you guys? What do you think of that? Like, are you? Because I know we're all kind of like side eye the whole like heirs getting the money for the stuff their parents created, but this is, to me, this is a different conversation, right? Because they're continuing to create with them. So what do you think of that? Like, does it feel different to you than just being an heir and monetizing what your parents did? Or do you view it more favorably? Do you not care one way or the other? Is it something you've ever thought about? Just curious. And then again, no, you don't have to have any in-depth thought here. I'm just throwing this at you guys, unprompted. So, but it's something I've been pondering the last few days.
Well, I'm trying to put myself in the position of someone who had a parent that was of that caliber of creator that was widely viewed and as pervasive as Vaughn Bode. I mean, Mark's putting the work in. He's not skimming money for just selling already published stuff. Like he's
no, that's what I mean. He's
right. He's actually
great. Yeah.
Right. If again, how do you escape? How do you crawl out from under that shadow of Vaughn Bode? It's like being, the son of Jack Kirby. Wouldn't you think that some of that would seep into the child, and they'd be like, well, who knows what kind of relationship they had? But again, putting myself in the position of the child, if my dad was Vaughn Bode, shit, I would pretty much do what Mark did.
Right. I mean, you're also a creative, though. Like that's like you're coming out from the angle of you've been a creative for your whole life too. So,
but I'm trying to I'm assuming that he saw his father at the drawing table with the pencils and the pens and the paintbrushes, just like making these wondrous images. Like that's got to affect a child, right? The closest thing I can think of is Adam and Andy Kubert, like not exactly profiting off Dad's work, but anybody who looks at their drawing styles, especially Andy, draws a lot like Joe. So, and they went through the school, right? So I could see, like,
right.
Would I have a problem using my dad's name as Wade Open Doors? Hell no. No, I mean, they don't do that now because they're consummate professionals, and they've been in battle. They've proven their worth, and we look at their art and it's like, all right, you guys are super solid. You're great illustrators. I don't think that they're beholden to their dad's name anymore, aside from the fact that it's their last name. But yeah, why not? Why not? I always get a little ticked off at my wife because she feels some kind of way when people come to her and ask her medical questions, or they kind of like, pump her ego. It's like, oh, you've done and you've seen it all. And she feels a little bad. I'm like, when those feelings open doors for her, like if she gets a consulting job or she gets, and I'm like, why you're not using that? Like you've put the time in, you've cultivated this respect from people and admiration and just the knowledge that you know your stuff. Why wouldn't you use that? You're not stealing. You're not grifting.
Yeah.
You're actually you're benefiting these people by sharing your experience and your knowledge. So, but she's just like, I don't know. It seems kind of shady. I'd like slimy. I'm like, I think the complete opposite. Like, you've earned this, so capitalize on it. Yeah, and I'll be honest, it was my wife's reputation that helped open the door to my daughter getting a job in a school district because of who my wife was. Like, that's just how this place works. And she goes, this town. And I'm like, no, you've earned that. That is a fringe benefit from all of your years of experience. Like, just run with that. And I think that that's the same way with children of famous artists. Like, if you're, obviously if Mark stunk, if his work was amateurish and nowhere near the quality of his dad's, then yeah, you're just trying to. But Mark's a great illustrator. And yes, he draws like his dad. Oh, well. Like, you're just continuing that brilliance that your father started, and now it's in you. So keep making things. Like, you're not making bombs. You're illustrating. Like, that is a gift to mankind, whether they know it or not. So I have no problem with it. Yeah.
Dap?
Yeah, in this case, I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's cut and dry for everyone across the board. Because if the talent is there, sure, that definitely
right. Well, I would agree, because I think that Brian Herbert, no disrespect, I guess, but maybe some disrespect. His Dune books are in my opinion, an absolute shadow of his father.
Right, but look at Wolfgang Van Halen. Right, if he got up on the stage and was
that's
like,
a good one.
Like plink, 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 plink. Like, okay, see you later, kid. But Wolfgang's really good.
Yeah,
or like Julian or Sean Lennon. And again, I'm not saying they were their dad, but they're legitimate.
Yeah, I would lean more towards Sean than Julian, because Julian hasn't really done a lot.
Agreed. Yeah,
but
I'm just saying,
Sean is Sean's a genius.
Yeah.
Not only one famous parent, but two.
That's true. I found some other interesting ones when I was trying to figure it. Like, when I was trying to come up, Kubert actually, the Kuberts were on there for sure. But Nick Cassavetes, right? Who actually, and he actually made a movie on one of his dad's scripts, which I think is kind of cool. The Hensons, Lisa and Brian, they continue to run the Henson Company and make Muppet stuff, which again, that's like, to me, that's different than just like owning the Muppets and making money. Like, they didn't hand off making Muppet stuff to somebody else and just cash the checks. Like, they took over and run the Muppets, which I think is cool. I mean, before our time, but one dear to our hearts, Dap, and I had forgotten this, but I guess Adrian Conan Doyle continued to write Sherlock Holmes stories after Arthur died.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize. A cool one that actually just happened, which I love, is Jason Reitman directed the last Ghostbusters, which obviously his dad created.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is cool, because I think Jason, and the cool thing about that again is, like, Jason Reitman has done tons of movies of his own. Like, he's a proven talent. It's not like he's like, oh, hey, I'm the first one. Yeah, I'm Ivan's dad. Can I do it? Like, he had a 25-year career of making movies, and then said, I want to do this to pay honor to my dad. So I think that's cool. One I did not know, but I saw mentioned a lot, was Todd McCaffrey continued to write Dragon Riders of Pern fantasy novels for his mom Anne. I've never read those novels, so I can't speak to them.
I read the first 3 or 4. They're good.
So I'm guessing you probably just read the ones you read were probably just all by Anne. Yeah. One that I think is super cool. I didn't know about it until I looked for it. Was Makiko Matsumoto is continued doing space battleship Yamato stuff for their father Reiji. Reiji created it, and they continue to make, which of course I love. I love Yamato, so that's cool. I think one I'm not sure I count is Christopher Tolkien because yeah. But like he didn't really. I mean, again, I guess he counts, but like to me, that's more in like he just tried to finish what his dad started, to honor him. It's not really like he continued to create new like Middle Earth stuff. So, but yeah, those are some I came. But my point is, it actually was much harder to find examples really in any art form than I expected. Like there aren't that many really. There are tons of people that like own the stuff and then like sell it to other people and make money off of it. But that's a different conversation.
Right. I have one, which is a no-brainer coming from me. Jennifer Lynch.
I didn't realize Jennifer Lynch continued to. I didn't know that. Yeah,
David's daughter. Well, she's working mostly in TV these days, but her early films are freaking great. Yeah, Boxing Helena.
Oh, and she did Boxing Helena.
Yeah. Oh shit!
Okay. Yeah. There's another one too. Noel Blanc continues to voice the Looney Tunes characters.
Yep.
And that's obviously Mel Blanc's son. So that's another cool one. But yeah, man. Just a little side conversation that kind of popped in my mind after watching the video with Mark, and I thought, because he came off as real genuine. I mean, it's clear that the dude has he says his dad was his best friend, and you know what I mean. Like it's like for good or for bad for him. Like I don't think it's always been great for him financially, but he's just his life's work is to continue to share his dad's art with people, and I think there's beauty in that.
I think in this situation, the consumers will determine the value, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in this situation try to recapture the magic of their parents, but if the audience doesn't feel it, then it's not going to sell, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things that the authenticity is in the longevity. Like Mark's been doing this a long time, so he must be tapped into something really good.
Yeah, like all respect to the Wallflowers, but Jacob Dylan ain't Bob Dylan.
This is very true. He's a handsome bastard, but yeah,
he is better looking than his dad. That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Bob was a handsome guy way back when. Okay. I think so.
Cool.
But anyway, Jason's way of shutting down the conversation. Cool.
No, I don't think Bob Dylan was particularly handsome, but what does it matter what I think? The guy dated beautiful women his entire life. And,
smartest thing you've ever said.
There you go.
Yeah. More comics. That was good. That was fun. Let's talk about more comics. What else do we have?
Who wants to dive in?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, we have something we can collabo on, but do you not?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, we have. I at this point, I'm pretty sure we have spoken about every Living the Line book that's come out in the last few years. I can't think of one we haven't given its due, and with good reason.
Yes.
They continue to be absolute badasses. And again, we don't have to. We've very recently sung their praises, so we probably don't need to do that again. But they have gifted us once again with another Smudge book, and that is Bonten Taro's Face Meat. Which the name in itself, how could you not love a comic called Face Meat?
Yep.
It's just fucking brilliant. And it is very, like, describing it's very easy and straightforward. It is a horror anthology manga, and it's basically a bunch of very short, well, most of them very short, some are medium sized, but short horror stories, and they all for the most part involve body mutilation, most often involving something happening to people's faces. So it's brilliant. It's fucking brilliant in its simplicity. That's exactly what it is. And I had never, at least to my memory, been exposed to Bonten Taro as a creator before. I love his line work. I love how varied the stories were. I mean, the very first story is actually a western, like a US based cowboy western
setting. Yeah.
Yeah, which I did not expect given that it's manga. So there's all kinds of different genres in this. It's there are some stories that are hella sexy. My dude definitely was freaky deaky, because there are many scenes where just a woman's titty just hanging right out, like sometimes not even for any.
That made me scream reading this with joy, because as soon as a woman enters the situation, it's like, oh, I'm going to see a boob, and then blah, like, and it wouldn't even be. There wouldn't be any kind of altercation or something, or like something physical where clothing would be pushed or moved aside. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and, oh, my boob popped out. Like, it's just.
Yeah, and the one story with the baby where she just wakes up and they're in bed and she just wakes up and she's got a titty hanging out of the robe.
Yeah, and I'm not mad at it, but I think one of the things, and you said it exactly, you hadn't heard of Bonten Taro before this book.
Right.
I would wager that 95% of Living the Line's audience has not heard of Bonten Taro before this book. And that's the beauty of this Smudge line, that they are rescuing these books, these manga, not only the works themselves, but these manga creators, particularly from obscurity. And that is invaluable to me, because I had heard about Bonten Taro, but to be totally honest, I had never seen any of his work before this book. And there is an amazing essay by Kunisawa Hiroshi called The 9 Lives of Outlaw Artist Bonten Taro. And this guy was a character, man. He was a mangaka. He was a tattoo artist. He was a musician. He's a polymath. He was in the Yakuza. He was a transient. Like, the guy was all over the place. He just decided one day, I'm gonna learn to tattoo. And he took 5 years and he became a tattoo artist and of renown, like not just an average tattoo artist. Came to America, saw the mechanized tattoo machines, brought one back to Japan, revolutionized tattoo work in Japan to the point where he tattooed Charlie Sheen. He designed a robe that Muhammad Ali wore in the ring. What? Like, this guy's incredible. He published the first horror manga in Black Ace. Like, important dude. And yet, crickets. We haven't seen hide or hair of him on this side of the water. And then Living the Line just like, boom, throws this book at us. And it's like, holy crap, where has this been all my life? Right? Jason, you glossed over one of the main things in Head, the first story, the Western, that really made me laugh was the woman has to be the dumbest woman on the planet. Because the guy's wife dies, right? And then her name's Mary. And then he hooks up with this woman that looks a lot like his dead wife. After
promising his first wife that he would never date again.
Yeah. It's like, oh, there's nobody like you. Yeah, okay. And he marries this woman, and he calls her Mary. Right? And the woman's like, oh, you really must have loved her. That's great, because I wish a man loved me that much. He's like, marry me. And she's like, okay. Like, the guy is still intensely committed to his dead wife. And you're just like, all right, I'll marry you. Like, dumbest woman ever. But either that or she has very, very little self-respect. But the story that I loved was Poisonous Moths.
Oh, I knew the leper one was going to be right up your alley. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy is basically falling apart. Body parts are falling off him. He's all bandaged up, and his wife is having an affair with his brother. So, like, the guy's legs dropped off, he lost a hand, fingers are coming off, like, left and right. He takes his bandages off, his face is sliding off his head. Like, he's pretty worse for wear and tear, right? And his brother gets crushed poisonous moths and puts it in the guy's water. And at one point, it paralyzes him. and he and the guy's wife do the nasty, like right in front of him.
Right in front of him.
And the guy can't even move. I mean, the sounds and the sights of his brother making time with his wife, he cannot, he has to view it. So the guy, the leopard turns into a caterpillar because of the crushed moths that he ingested. And he makes his way to the well and comes back to poison the water of his wife and brother. And they turn into moths and die. And the leopard turns into a butterfly and just flies away. Yay. And like, that's the end of the story. Like, what the hell am I reading? And it's so funny because some of the stories have a narrator, some of them don't. But then the narrator will pop up at the very end and just be like, how about that? Like, the police looked all around for the sensei's missing body, but they couldn't find it. And they just found corpses, awkwardly, but with apparent joy. It's the stupidest thing ever, but it's glorious. There's the further adventures of Dr. Frankenstein, in which a hunchback's brain is transported into a very handsome man's body. Yeah. This last, I think it's the last story. No, yeah, it is the last story. The Messenger of Death, that double-page spread is a masterpiece. With the bat and the skull and the silhouette of the woman. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. It's a pretty weird story. These two guys get drunk and they beat and one of them beats the shit out of the other one and apparently kills them. And death comes and takes them to hell. So they get a view of the panorama of hell. But in the end, they just wake up and it's like, did we go to hell? Like, and they just walk away. They just walk away into this, like, these are very atypical stories. But the thing I love most about Taro's style is that it's inconsistent. But I think that's an asset, not a detriment, because some panels and pages, he'll go in hard and he renders the shit out of it and everything looks beautiful. And then some pages, he's really loose. And it's very gestural and expressive and just using marks instead of lines. And it's like, and the shift is so abrupt. You can't even anticipate it. It's just like, I felt like drawing really tight in this page, but in this page, not so much. His anatomy's a little wonky.
Oh yeah, they're definitely. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, that's just, again, that's a plus to me because it speaks about his intent. Like, maybe I'm not the best draftsman in the world, but I want to make manga. I want to make comics. I'm going to do it. So what? That's great. This book is phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. The Man Who Sold His Soul is probably my second favorite story. That it's about a dude, classic story, unrequited love, girl he's into is into somebody else. Old Scratch rolls up to him and says, "Hey, man, I can give you something to make her love you forever, but you got to do something for me." And he's like, "All right, bet." Like, sure. It works. The girl falls madly in love with him, and she's like, just wants to bang the shit out of him. But then he's like, "Hey, man, you can't be with her from, midnight till whatever time, I think 8 a.m. or whatever." And he's like, "All right, fine." So he keeps, because he turns into this creature between those hours. And then, of course, eventually she's so into him, she refuses to leave. And then he turns and kills her and destroys her. And then the dude still gets his soul. So love that. Love the way he drew it.
I like how it's implied that he went in head first in that one scene. Like,
what do you mean?
Oh,
you mean he went down on her?
Yeah, big time.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know why you were being so coy about it.
Well, I mean, I would like people to, experience it themselves. But yeah, right. Another big plus in this book are the advertising, where a page would end, like DC used to put house ads, half-page house ads in stories. Not so much half page, maybe third of a page and an eighth of a page. There's ads for porn films and adult toys and other kind of unsavory items, and they're just like right at the end of the story. Boom, there it is. Mm-hmm. It's glorious. Yeah.
And you alluded to this, but we should say that, I mean, this stuff was mainly published in the early 1960s.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it and I think that adds to it, because it's very, I mean, it's very transgressive now, but it was hella transgressive from back then.
And kudos to Living the Line and Smudge. I would guess that none of the original art is available for this book. So what they did was they definitely scanned printed manga,
right?
And that just adds to it, because it has a grittiness to it. Like some of the color pages, you can see stuff that was on the preceding page here and there, and that's okay by me. I mean, if the only way to get this stuff printed is to scan the original manga, then by all means do it. Because to let this stuff languish and just be out of the public's eye, that's a big crime. These guys are doing a service to us. Whether,
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And I hope we talk about Smudge's 100th book or 200th book. I just keep putting them out, and I'll keep buying them.
Yep.
We're going to keep living the line.
It's true. See what you did there?
Oh, I see it.
Machine.
Yeah. And it's inexpensive too. What was this thing, like $20? That's not bad. I think that's a very reasonable price for this. Not only for the actual physicality of the thing, but for the sake of posterity. Like $20 is a small price to pay to read something that you would never ever have a chance to read otherwise. So keep doing it.
And not that we're playing favorites, but I have to say I think I enjoy this more than Mansect.
I love all my kids.
So
right. No, I get that.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might be with you, Jason.
There we go.
You're nuts. How? It's two different. Yeah. No, I'm not going to pick. I love them all.
All right. There you go.
Yeah. What else do we have?
The writer, or well, at least co-creator of the You Never Heard of Me and a thing called Truth, Iolanda Zanfardino, she wrote and drew a graphic novel titled Midnight Radio, recently republished by Oni. It's a story about four individuals living in San Francisco, and the book is basically every character is represented. Their portion of the story is represented by a color. So Mike, his story is in green. He's a programmer who works for Minus, which is a dietary supplement company that's accused of killing seven people. And when Mike was younger, he was a bit of an anarchist, and now he's a programmer, and he's working on Minus's website, which is currently being hacked, and Mike's boss is on his ass to squash it. And while Mike is like trying to stress, maybe we should look for outside help and maybe get a security firm to check this out, and he's like, no, we want to keep this quiet. We don't want to make a big deal out of it. Then there's Joanne. Her story's in red. She's a mass shooting survivor. Steven, his story is in yellow. He's known as Insta King, and he communicates with his family and with his friends only in Instagram posts. And his little sister is ill and is waiting for a transplant. And then there's Sika. Her story's in blue. She's a Japanese immigrant. She's been busted for petty theft, and the people who busted her want her to take part in a sting operation. They put her in a position to snitch on Francisco, who's the ringleader or the mastermind behind an art heist ring. He and his crew have been going around and basically liberating Mexican paintings to bring them back home to support the community and the villages and things like that. So there are a few instances in the book where some of the stories do intersect. Stephen pops into the cafe where Joanne is working. He also finds Sika sobbing in an alley while she is dealing with the dilemma of whether or not she should go through with snitching, because her visa will be reinstated. She'll be able to stay in the States. If she doesn't do this, then she's going to be deported. So she caught feelings for Francisco, and she does like the group, the art thieves. So she's torn. But overall, it's a very again, the art, whether it's the art style with both Zanfardino and Romboli, who's the artist on the books they work on together, they're very, very compatible, very, very complementary styles. Sort of, kind of, in a way, it reminds me. Well, there are some images that make me think of like earlier Joel Jones, but there are some heavy moments in this book that you're dealing with racism because of people who were threatening Sika with sending her back to Japan. They are extremely racist. They keep joking about They keep mentioning if whether or not they still wear kimonos back home, or any nickname her geisha and shit like that. Stephen's family is kind of they're not necessarily at their end with, because he won't speak. He will not speak. They're not at their wits' end yet, but they are getting frustrated because he just won't speak. And Stephen has a friend who is trans and needs Stephen, but because of what Stephen's dealing with, he can't be there. It's just, and of course everything that Mike is dealing with the website. The hacker is messing with him and getting into his head, and while Mike's mom is calling him every once in a while, reminding him, oh, I bumped into your old friends from high school, and I can't believe the way they still dress like they're still in high school, and I'm so glad you made something of yourself, and he doesn't want to hear it, and he knows that there are better things for him in his life than working for this dude who is obviously just trying to cover up these accidents, these murders that his drug caused. And Joanne, she is of course aside from dealing with the trauma of surviving a mass shooting, she's kind of shut down. She's separated herself from her friends, the other survivors from that night. And she goes to visit her family because her family doesn't understand her, doesn't know really, had to communicate with her, doesn't understand what she's been through, and they'll make snide comments because of their generation, and she snaps at them and runs away, and the way it all comes together is again, very rarely will they intersect. So it's not like at the end of the book there's like some big crescendo where everybody gets together and they're all friends or save the day. They pretty much do stay separate, but knowing how some of them do intersect at random moments. But it's a reminder that you do not know what someone else is going through, what someone's dealing with. You may, obviously everybody has their own issues, but you're not the only one in the world or in the room at the time. So you kind of, it pays to have some empathy, pays to be understanding, pays to know that you're not the only one dealing with something at any given moment. But yeah, it was I think the original. I think Lion Forge originally published it. Back around 2019 or so. but only did recently republish it. And yeah, I like the colors of it. The art at times it's not super loose, but it's not scratchy, but there are some panels where it almost looks like kind of like pencil roughs where she's drawing a face and there might be like a couple of extra lines like where the jaw is or where her nose might be. So it flows nicely. I really do like the colors of it, especially Stevens. The yellowish green gold is a nice look. But yeah, overall, it was pretty entertaining. It's been on my radar for a minute, especially since I've been enjoying the work that the team itself has been doing. But seeing the solo tale was pretty neat. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect with it. This was one of those things where I wanted to read it based solely on the author's previous work that I've enjoyed. So I wasn't disappointed at all. I do like I like the stories that they're telling. So this was another good one.
Nice, and I can see just trying to find art as you talked about it that there's several other comics called Midnight Radio, so people do
yes,
ordering the right thing because it's a little confusing.
I have the art from it. I'll send it to you if you want to see it.
Oh yeah, no, I found it. I'm saying, but when I was originally looking at the first two links, were not that. It was something else.
Okay,
some other comic called Midnight Radio. Yeah,
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you that I read a collection with the lineup of Ross Andrew, Alex Toth, Abe Simon, Jerry Grandinetti, George Russo, Jack Katz, Art Saf, John Cilardo, and last but certainly not least, Mike Sikowski. Would you be
Harvey?
No, this is the other one. Yes, this is another PS Artbook. I have a ton of these things, and they're like my saving grace, my oasis. Whenever stuff isn't clicking with me, I know I can always go to my PS Artbooks shelf. I think I have like 30 or 40 of them, and just pull out a book, and I know it's going to work for me because, again, these are pre-code horror stories. These were created in 1952 to 1953, 2 full years before Wortham and his Senate witch hunt that happened in 1954, which led to the creation of the Comics Code of Authority and all that bullshit. But this is called The Unseen, and it's volume 1. There's only one problem with this book, and it's something that has been rectified in other volumes. There's no credits. That's a big deal for me. So if I have to go to comics.org just to find out who worked on each one of the stories, like that's a pain in the ass. Like I said, in future volumes, there's a page before each issue that gives you the lineup, who worked on what, who wrote it, if possible, because the information for writers was scant, right? You can look at a story and say, oh, that's an Alex Toth story. But the writers, that's a bit tough. And a lot of the writers for these stories are unknown. Not all of them. But the art is pretty straightforward if you know your pre-code horror artists. I'm not going to go deep on this. I just want to tell you one story and hopefully entertain you. The best story in this collection, I think, is a little tale called The Vengeance Vat. It was written by, we don't know, but it was illustrated by Mike Sikowski and John Cilardo. And this story, horror stories pre-code were basically pretty much the same, right? It's either at the nexus of the story is either love or vengeance or hate. Like, and there's a little O. Henry moment at the end where whoop, the script gets flipped and it's like this surprise, which really wasn't a surprise in many of them. But this story is really cool. And I think it's pretty universal. It's about two brothers, Lars and Zane Kaslow, and a witch. Yes, a practitioner of the black arts. Her name is Myra. Lars owns a garbage business, and he calls the shots. And his brother Zane does all of his brother's dirty work, right? So Lars is like, what is that shack near the garbage dump? Like, what the hell is that? Get your ass in there and tell the person, whoever's living in there, to get the hell out. So Zane does it, and he's familiar with it's Myra the witch. And all she does all day, she spends time stirring her cauldron. And he goes into the shack and he sees the smoke coming up from the cauldron. He's like, is there faces in that smoke? What? No, can't be. And the splash panel for the story, Sikowski draws her hunched over the cauldron, and you see all these eerie demonic faces just swirling out of it's a beautiful, beautiful panel. So he tells his brother, get her out of here. And Zane is kind of sort of sympathetic to her cause. You know, he realizes it's just an old woman just doing what an old woman does, but he has to, follow his brother's wishes. And he begins the process of informing her that she has to leave when Lars enters the shack. And he starts to get a bit uppity, and he gets handsy with Myra, and she ends up falling and hitting her head and dying. She's dead. So he's desperate now. He just basically murdered somebody. And he's like, oh man, it was an accident. You got to do me a favor. Like, Zane, come on, man, cover for me. I'll do anything. So Zane uses the incident as an opportunity to elevate his sad station in life. And he demands that, hand over the business to me, my man. I want to be the head honcho. And Lars is like, yeah, sure. Anything you want. Just help me cover my tracks. So they burn down the shack. Real nice guys. They burn it down, which eliminates any kind of evidence. And when the dust settles, what do you think happens? Lars is like, I changed my mind. He welshes out of the deal that he made with his brother. So Zane is pissed. He's mad. And he ultimately buries his brother in a load of scrap metal. Kills him. Just kills his brother. And it gets worse. He marries Lars's beautiful widow, Kathy. She's a real looker, right? But Myra is very far from done with Zane. He's haunted by the incident. He's got nightmares where he sees all the faces steaming out of the pot. He looks at Kathy, and sometimes, she looks a little like Myra, and Kathy's a big antique hound, right? So one day he comes home, and there's Myra's cauldron. And he's like, where'd you get that? And she's like, oh, I bought it at an antique shop. And it even has a recipe on the bottom of it. And he's like, get that thing out of here. So he takes the cauldron and he throws it away, and it's back the next day. But not only that, Kathy follows the recipe on the bottom of the cauldron, and she's making the brew, and he's like, I can't fucking believe this. Like, what are you doing? And he gets physical with his wife, and he chases her out of the house. He regrets it, but he starts to fly off the rails. He's getting crazy. And he's like, wait a minute. Is that the shack that's back? Like, they burned it down, and the shack is back. So he goes in, and it's Myra inside, but it's not Myra. It's Kathy. And like, she's got like two-face. Her facial features are split. Like, one half is Myra and the other half is Kathy. So he freaks out, and he becomes a vagrant. He murders her first, and what looks like a tire iron, like he beats the crap out of her and kills her. And then he just hits the road, becomes a vagrant, and he wanders from place to place. But every place he goes, the same shack is there. And inside of it is Myra. And he's like, she said, you have to atone for what you did. You have to go back and confess and turn yourself in. And he does that. He goes back home, but he's been on the road for so long. He doesn't look like he used to look. Like he's got a beard and he's all straggly and like his clothes are shitty. And so they don't believe him. And they're like, get the hell out of here. So he wanders back to the original junkyard, and there's the shack. And the manager's like, yeah, you can go crash in there for a little while. So he goes into the shack, and there's the cauldron. And he goes up to the cauldron, and these things inside of the cauldron pull him in, and the dude is he's boiled alive at the end of the story. And her vengeance is complete. Like, this is a great story. You had to see it coming a mile away, right? But that's the joy of these stories. Like, they're so simple, but in the hands of Mike Stokowski and Solardo, like, holy shit, the visuals on this tale are amazing. They go the distance because there's one panel in particular when he bashes in her head with the tire iron. He's in silhouette. And he's got the tire iron held out. His arm is extended. And she's on the ground, not in silhouette, dead. But there's a table that comes in from the bottom right of the panel. It's about a 45-degree angle. And the light, there's a shadow on the table from his hand with the tire iron. But then there's also a shadow on the floor that's kicked to the left. And that's the way it would be. Like, if the light was coming from behind him and it cast a shadow on the table, the shadow on the floor would look like it was a number of inches removed from the original shadow, because you have the space between the table and the floor that the light would, and then there's the silhouette of him and you see the tire iron again. Like, it is a really great panel. Like, these guys thought out the lighting in this panel. They just didn't wing it. They're like, okay, that was there, would be split. And they're like, holy shit, I'm looking at this art. Like, jeepers. This is a revelation. Like, who thinks that deeply about a shadow from a tire iron? These guys did. And there's more. Obviously, when Alex Toth appears in a book, all eyes are going to be on Alex, right? Because out of all these artists, and I love Ross Andru, out of all of these artists, Alex Toth was the most accomplished. So when his stories pop up, he's a maestro. Like, Toth could do no wrong. His stories are visually very complex. Not only in terms of the shadow, because Toth liked to play around with shadows, but just the character design and the facial features. And when Toth designed a creature, man, he went the distance. Like, these books are worth their weight in gold. But the good thing about it is, if you look in the previews these days, PS Artbooks, they go for about $59, $69 with the slipcase. Get yourself to eBay, because I have never paid more than $25 a volume.
There you go.
Yeah. And when you think about the production side of PS Artbooks, they're incredibly smart, because what they did was, and I've said this before, they have taken all of these public domain comics and they've made hardcover collections out of them. So in a lot of instances, somebody other than the people at PS Artbooks have done the heavy lifting. They've scanned these comics, because if you go to, the Digital Comics Museum online, like, there's a bunch of sites that you can download public domain comics. It's not illegal. Nobody owns these things. And I think what PS Artbooks did is they took those original scans and they cleaned them up a little bit. And so production-wise, there's very low overhead for these things. They're basically just paying somebody to lay it out and for the printing, because they're not paying royalties. They're not paying artists for these things. They've already been public domain for many years. So it's kind of a smart business model, but it's kind of a shitty business model too. No, you know what I mean? Like, nobody's losing money from these books. But PS Artbooks are making money on work that has been done. In this instance, 70 years ago, right? But I love PS Artbooks. I love their and they're again the original art. No, they're scanning these right from the comic pages. There's a lot of variation in textures.
It's a lot like how Craig Yo makes his living, right? I mean,
it's exactly how Craig makes his living. Yeah. Public domain comics. Yeah. And again, you know me. The imperfections are the things that drive me. I'd like to see that. I like to see what the consumer saw way back when. Be it like sometimes plates shift in the printing process, so you'll get maybe a blue plate that's jacked to the left or to the right, or there's a white spot where all of the plates may have moved. Like that's gold to me. I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, verite, comics verite. I love that. But I'm just so in love with PS Artbooks that I don't buy them. Like I said, I don't buy them new. It's crazy. Get them on the secondary market. The value's built right in. Unseen Volume 1. There's 2 volumes to Unseen. So
nice.
if you want to collect them, not going to kill you. And these were originally published by Standard Comics. In terms of pre-code horror, I think they're a little tamer than they're definitely tamer than the EC books by far. But maybe next week I'll talk about the Harvey books. Harvey were surprisingly raw for Harvey Comics. When we think
now
of Harvey,
talking.
Yeah, when we think of not as raw as EC, but when we think of Harvey Comics, we think of Casper and Richie Rich and stuff like that. Harvey published some pretty breathtakingly horrid books in their time. Next week, I'll do Harvey.
Well, we would be remiss before we sign off this week to not spend a few moments saying rest in peace and paying tribute to the passing of Mr. Jim Shooter.
Yeah.
He passed away this week of complications related to esophageal cancer that he was battling for some time.
Wow.
We briefly had Jim was around and about at Heroes 2024. A few of our boos, including Mario, spent actually a fair amount of time chatting him up. I know Kevin Quast chatted with him a long time. Mario chatted with him a long time. Dan T chatted with him. So kudos to them. Because how many times have we said over the years, if you care about a creator and you see them at a con, go up and thank them and shake their hand, because you just never know if it's the last time you're going to get a chance. And that's kind of the living embodiment of that.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say that Jim Shooter had a very complicated life and legacy. Much like other people in his role, probably Stan most notably, people both loved and disliked him intensely, depending on their experience with him and the role he played in their lives, right?
Yeah. And
again, I'm not speaking ill of the guy. I think it's just a fair. I think it's a fair characterization of him. He's someone who many people have very strong feelings about in both directions.
Somebody should call John Byrne and see if he's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be dumb of me to say that he wasn't a hugely important person in my comics history just because of the role he played as EIC at a point when the formative time for me of becoming a comics fan. But I also would be disingenuous to suggest that I was conscious of that role. I mean, I was, as I got older, I realized the role he played, but I didn't. Like, Stan was omnipresent. Like he even after he left the role of being the editor, it's just it was hard to not think of Marvel and Stan Lee coincidentally, even when he really wasn't all that important to running things. I don't know that I ever really thought of Jim that way until many years later as an adult and started understanding the history of the back office. So like I'll be honest, I never felt compelled to like go up and talk to him at cons. Like it just he was never a person. Like I was cognizant of his importance, but it never felt like something I needed to connect with because he was editorial. Like that was just his thing. But I will say that putting that aside, I really genuinely enjoyed in the last few days reading some of the creators' takes on their relationship with him. and it was very enriching. Like, I thought that Walt Simonson, of all the people I came across, his anecdotes were the ones that probably stick with me. He mentioned that he and Wheezy were literally about to get married in June 1980, but Wheezy had Wheezy, who was an editor at the time, for those who don't know, she was trying to finish up an adaptation of Xanadu, the Olivia Newton-John movie. I guess Marvel was adapting that. I don't remember that ever happening.
Yes.
It happened, yeah, and it was one of those things that had to be done, but Walt had already gone to Maryland for their wedding, and she had to be on a train to make their wedding. And he implored Jim to make sure that she was on the train. And Jim did. Jim basically kicked her out of the office and said, "Get your ass down there for your wedding." And she showed up like minutes to spare. And they kept, and obviously they've been happily married for almost 50 years subsequent to that. So, or more than 50, 55 years. So I thought that was fun. And then he also said that there was a time when, because the way the offices were structured, they had radiant heating. So Shooter and Nocenti had adjacent offices, and you could hear what was going on in one office from the other. And Walt was in Anne's office one time when he could hear Jim talking about him, and Jim, who probably one of the things people hated about him is he was very, very about rules and order and formula. He just thought there was a certain way to make comics, and he did not like when people veered away from that. And he says of Walt, "Simonson, another big gun who can't be aimed." And Walt said he has loved that description of him ever since, and he wants it on his epitaph. So I just thought those were lovely stories that Walt shared about Jim, and I think also expressed the two sides of him. He was, by all accounts, very brusque, very blunt, very unforgiving if he felt you wronged him, but also he did a lot of good things. He fought, Levitz, of course, deserves credit for pushing hard at DC for royalties for creators, but Shooter took that and quickly pushed for Marvel to do it, and got that done there, and he was always very big advocate of creators' rights and artists owning their art, as that became a thing in future years. And so he did a lot of good things too. And obviously he brought people like Frank Miller and Walt and others that are all-timers into the comics biz and gave them their first big jobs. So hat tip to him for sure. I'm hogging the spotlight here, but but again, by all means, you guys have thoughts. But rest in peace to Jim.
Yeah. As the soliloquy you just delivered, I'm of two minds on Jim Shooter. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the changes he initiated at Marvel on the editorial side. Marvel was very different under Shooter than it was under Roy and those that came before him. On the creative side, I love Shooter for Legion and Valiant. Like, those are two really big monoliths for me in the comics landscape. But I don't like what Shooter did. He's comics destroyer in a way, initiating the Secret Wars, because I think that was a really, really big mistake to instigate a limited series, because then we were just flooded with them from both Marvel and DC, and it was just like everybody had a mini series, and then that led to the Wolverine miniseries alone led to a speculative boom in the marketplace where these were considered not just entertainment but collectible in a sense. And I don't want to lump that all on Jim, but if not for Secret Wars,
he was Patient X.
Yeah.
Patient X.
Yeah. I respect the man. I appreciate his creative work more than his editorial work, but he's inescapable. Literally, he was a very tall man, and he cast a huge shadow.
6'7".
On comics. So, but yeah, if I had to pick the one thing I appreciate from Shooter, Valiant.
It's fair.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of I know we tend to dump a lot of crap on Claremont because of how he would write his X-Men stories, but that is basically, from what I remember, a mandate from Shooter, where Jim
Right.
always felt that every comic book is going to be someone's first comic book. So
Right,
you
right.
want to try to get the reader, give them as much information as possible, even if it's redundant, even if you're already explaining what you're visually seeing in a panel. And that's fine, and that worked. And I mean, he was EIC for about 9 years or so, and it was. I mean, Secret Wars aside, there were I I was a pretty heavy Marvel reader during his reign, and I did follow him to Valiant and eventually to Defiant. But yeah, I mean, Valiant was way different than anything that Marvel was doing. Even though Jim brought over a lot of the older Marvel artists, like Don Perlin and Bosberg, and they were. It, I I know that people have said that Jim could have been difficult to work with, and that's obviously true. But I don't have I don't have the I don't think I think of Jim Shooter. I tend to think of him more fondly than I do some other creators that, from around the same era that I know have their their true colors and how they treat people have come to light. I may have soured on some of those creators over the years, but Jim has always been somebody that when I think of him, I do think of Marvel in the '80s, and naturally Valiant, and seeing him at Heroes or even at New York, but definitely last year at Heroes, was able to chat with him for a little bit at the temporary bar at the Westin, and like you said, Mario and Kevin were both chatting him up, and he definitely he left his mark. I know that maybe I I think like I like to think of Jim more behind the scenes than actually the stories that he wrote. I know, he was one of the youngest comic writers ever, sending in stories to DC for the Legion stuff. But uh, I I've definitely enjoyed way more comics he's edited than he's
For sure.
than he's written.
Yeah.
So I know that he started as a writer. I know he continued to write. He wrote Solar, the Atom, and Warriors Plasm, and I did enjoy his stories, but for me, it's more of the head of creative or just more behind the scenes and putting things in motion than actual telling stories. But yeah, I Jim's someone who I think similar to Peter David. He's not somebody who, when I think about, I'm going to think about anything negative. Really, I'm more partial. There are some creators who, when I just think of them, uh, I'm going to remember the good times that they provided, the entertaining stories, what I enjoyed about me being a comic fan, and what they've done to help foster that's where I kind of view Jim. I'm not going to get I he's not somebody who I'm going to get caught up and worry about any of the negative aspects that I mean, creators could tell me, how working with him and how they felt. And I mean, even Thunderhead Jones from the old forums, he was talking about when he was actually working for Defiant, and he sat across from the table at Jim, and he was nervous and stressing, and thought he was going to get, admonished and called to the carpet, but Jim was friendly, and they talked about old comics, and that's how I kind of think about Shooter. I don't think of him the way I would think of of say Burn, where I just know that as years have gone on and more stories have come out and other people have talked that he may not have been the nicest guy to be around. I'm not familiar with too many. I know people they had issues with Shooter, but most of what I remember definitely leans more towards the positive. So I am saddened that he's gone, but I am very thankful that he was able, what he did for comics and helped me stay a fan is not something I'm going to forget anytime soon.
Well, all that stuff should be unknown to us, right? All of the interactions Shooter had with people,
Yes.
and
Yep.
it should be irrelevant to us,
Correct.
right? In terms of the art, but it's not, right? Reputations are made. And
I was going to say, interesting coming from you, Mister I Hate Stan Lee.
Well, I just don't like people that take credit for others' work.
But I'm saying the sentiment of what you just said applies to both. We shouldn't know.
Right? We shouldn't. We should just.
Right.
We should
But we do.
absorb the stuff
But we
on
do.
on those pages, and it's like, was this a good story? Wow, this was great. Like,
But then I would push back. But then we really shouldn't have much of an opinion at all, Jim Shooter, because as I agree with that. I mean, yes, he did a few
right?
things.
Yeah. See,
yeah.
big picture. When you're talking about art, all that matters is the art. But we're human beings, and we love stories, and human beings made this work, so they leave legacies, and like they can't all be Archie Goodwin, right? Where
That is true.
it universally beloved, but
Archie.
yeah, but it's a tough call because we are talking about art and perception, but when it involves human beings, which it always does. You have to, I shouldn't say have to, we take those things into consideration, right? John Byrne may not be the best person in the world, but damn, those Fantastic Four issues are really good, right? Yeah. And on the subject of Shooter's recap mandate, it didn't matter for single issues, right? Because they were published monthly. Or bi-monthly in some cases, and the trade paperback was not even a dream at that point.
Wasn't a thing, exactly. Yeah.
But now when we read an omnibus and you get those constant recaps, it's like, shut the hell up. We know we just read this 2 pages ago. Why are you telling this again? So it was a product of the way things were made, which is not the way they're made now. So. Yeah, it's annoying, but back in the day, I welcomed those recaps because I read every comic that Marvel published. And
I do think there's a happy medium because I think, and maybe because I'm an old man now, I very often now will, if it's an ongoing or whatever, and I haven't read it in a few months, I will feel compelled to go back and reread a big chunk because I can't remember what happened. So I'd love a little like first page, like here's what happened,
right?
But I think where it went wrong, and I say wrong, I'm with you at the time, and that was my coming of my golden era of being a comic nerd. So I can't say it bothered me at the time. I didn't even notice it, and it was all just like it was just the way comics were made. But I think the error in that, if people try and read it now, I can understand why they're like, what the fuck is this? Like,
yeah,
the error was just putting exposition like in every page, like they had to like recount everything. Like they should have just they should have just recapped what happened on the first page of the issue and then be off to the races.
Yeah, because let's be real. If you remember the X-Men and Rogue made with the sugar every other sentence, you'd be like, will you shut the hell up with that sugar? Because, okay, I get it. Like, that's your thing. It's your word. You can say it once in a while, but,
You're from the South.
like, don't say it every 2 minutes. Like, stop. But that's like Wolverine with the bub, or Longshot with his bullshit.
Or stars, oh my stars and garters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the beats, yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice that you have you have a thing. Like, that's your thing. But when you read it every single issue, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
it
for sure.
becomes a little bit unwieldy. But anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. You had something else to say about something different?
Oh, well, I was just gonna riff because I thought you needed a minute. There's really nothing to say other than I'm thrilled that I have it, and that is just that one of the things I didn't mention in our heroes recap, forgot, is that Chris Pitzer had, as he often does, he tables at Heroes just to have a place to post up and chat with people. And as we all know, unfortunately, he is not making comics anymore as a publisher, which is a bummer. But he's enjoying retirement. But he always has, an awesome collection of old comics and zines that he sells from his personal collection. And as I was catching up with him about life, I was leafing through, and I found one that looked like Brandon Graham. And I thought, what the fuck is this? I never saw this before. And it was a Brandon Graham CBLDF benefit sketchbook from 2014, and so I bought it. I bought it from Chris and read it, and it's exactly what it's just a sketchbook. I mean, there's very little. There's no narrative in it. It's just like sketchbook doodles of Brandon's from some period of time, and there's characters from multiple warheads, and it's really cool imagery if you're a Brandon fan. But there's nothing more to it than that. Just wanted to say I was just a nice little bit of serendipity that Pitzer had one, and I was able to acquire it off of him. So I actually pinged Brandon and said, "Hey man, look what I just bought," and he was like, "Oh shit, man, I haven't seen that in a long time," So, and he actually sent me a picture of the stuff he's working on, a new book. So I told him, "Well, man, when the book's ready and you want to roll back onto the show, because remember we had a great time with Brandon.
We did.
A year or two ago.
Always have a good yeah.
So I just wanted to say it was just a fun little bit of comic. Just didn't even know it existed, and then it was a joyful experience.
It's so cute that he tolerates you. That's great.
That he tolerates me. Oh, that's just
this guy.
malfeasance. That's malfeasance.
Hey, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this. Please come back next week because we'll be doing more of the same. If you listen to this anywhere, of course you do, please leave us a review. We would very much appreciate it. Also, remember, you don't want to pay a lot for comics. So where are you going to go? You're going to go to cheapgraphicnovels.com because you're not going to pay a lot there. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. If you want, you can check it out. Patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. Jason, you mentioned the fact that you have to go back and reread stuff just to catch up with newer issues.
I do.
It's exactly what I did this week.
Oh, nice.
Because I fell off the Transformers Astro Train maybe around issue 10, 11. And I was like, I got to get caught up because people are going to spoil the shit out of this for me. So that's what I did. I read all the published issues of Transformers. Now, I'm not going to recap anything because that would be silly because Jason talks about this book a lot. But just to be specific, written by our boo Daniel Warren Johnson, with art by DWJ, Jorge Corona, Ryan Otley, Jason Howard, color by Mike Spicer, Annalisa Leone, and Sarah Stern. Just to keep it brief, I think Jorge Corona was a great replacement for DWJ.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
The panel with Astro Train in chains is an absolutely perfect panel. We don't get them often, but also Beachcomber's Journey was a great section. Like all of Jorge's work is phenomenal. But bullet points, Soundwave's bond with Ravage, awesome. I love how Soundwave makes decisions on how other Transformers treat his dog. That's great. I loved Ultra Magnus's awesome appearance. And his retreat. Poor Ultra Magnus, you know what I mean? He's maimed and tortured by Shockwave, and then he's maimed and tortured by Flags. Can I live? Poor Ultra Magnus. I loved Optimus riding Beachcomber's board.
Yeah.
Shredhead, the original Transformer created at Image, and geez, it's not a surprise that it's called Shredhead, coming from Daniel. Megatron's cannon Corrupting Optimus was great. Superion was well played. All of the gestalts were really well done.
Loved them.
The stupidity of the Decepticon gestalts was on point, because it's canon that when they combine, they get dumb.
Yeah.
And we saw it, right? I just thought Elita 1 and her treachery was great. It is a really fun book. I don't know.
Megatron using Laserbeak's eyes. I mean, I think that's awesome.
Yes, yeah. But I don't know where it's going to go with Kirkman. And in fact, I really don't care, because as we always say, these 25 issues are going to exist, and we can go back and reread them and get the chills all over again. I'm not a huge fan of Carly.
Okay.
I think she's extremely short-sighted.
Okay.
Yeah, RC reached out to her, and she's just like, yeah, screw you. So what? You're old and busted. And it's just like, okay, we know you've been through some stuff, but yeah. And how about Thundercracker having a little bit of compassion? What's that about? He's a seeker. He shouldn't have any. See, here's the deal with these Transformers books. I know we have the Energon universe and all of the G.I. Joe and the Void Rivals. They're all linked. But I will tell you with absolute truth that whenever a G.I. Joe moment is inserted into the Transformers, it just kills the book for me.
Man,
like I know we're supposed to feel something that Starscream is bonded to a Hiss tank, but I'm just like, whatever. It's a terrible design, Hiss tank, and now and then Flag enters the picture, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
I was rolling with you until just now. Now you lost.
The Joe stuff does nothing for me. I think it just waters, and conceptually it makes sense. Yeah, Energon. Okay, that's where the Cobra gets their energy. It's okay, great, but it's just because I have no connection to G.I. Joe other than the Marvel stuff, and it was just like, I got to get this because it's a Marvel book. I never watched the show. It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, but you're reading the Energon Joe stuff, or you had been.
Yeah, I am reading it, and it's just whatever. Like, okay. They're fun, and they're really well made, but I don't have that bond with Duke and CoverGirl and whatever, or Roadblock. I don't have the bond with those characters that I do with the Transformers. Mm-hmm. So it's a thing. It's like, oh, okay, this connects to Joe, and that's fine.
I mean, they're pretty minor parts of the Transformers book, I think.
Yeah, like the Mars, whatever.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think, like, in 20, like, I just think they're not. They're just like more like Easter eggs than big parts.
That's exactly what it is. But they're Easter eggs that fall flat for me. Sorry, I got to be real.
Well, it's nice. It's good to remind us that you're not perfect. I appreciate that.
I had to laugh when you're just like, oh, big ups to Big Bad Toy Store for offering all the Mask figures in one bundle. And I'm like,
baby.
Why the frig would you spend money on that trash? Like,
what? That's so hard. See, why do you got to fucking crush other people's joy?
I'm not crushing your joy. I'm just sure. No, I'm not. Why?
Like, why the fuck would anyone spend money on that trash? That is crushing someone's joy.
No, it's not. It's totally not, because you could like what you like, and I like what I like. I'm just giving you my perspective.
Right, but you called it trash. You put a value
to me, Mask was the cartoon and all of it.
But what you said was, why would anyone spend money on that trash?
Let me rephrase that. I'm glad these bring you joy, and I'm glad.
You're not.
I'm really not. No, but I mean, it makes me happy that there is something in the world that makes you happy. Okay,
I don't think that's true, but okay.
It kind of is, but from my perspective, I mean, if I'm being totally honest, like, buy Transformers instead. Like, why you spend money on those?
Oh my god, I buy Transformers as well.
You should buy the upscale $500 Transformers.
My pockets is deep. Don't worry about my pockets.
I know.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Appreciate you worrying about my paper. I'm good. This isn't.
I'm just saying.
I'm not foregoing anything else because of this. This is just another thing to enjoy. But thank you for the concern.
Sure.
And many of I'm sure many of our listeners are also going to appreciate it.
Yeah, whatever. Like, if they take it personally, that's on them. I'm just being honest.
It's cool. Yeah.
I'm sure people feel that way about me. Like, why are you reading that shit? Because I love it. Okay, we're done.
But they don't call it trash. They just say,
maybe I didn't choose.
I don't know why I don't like it.
I did. Yeah. Okay, I didn't choose my words.
I mean, it'd be one thing if Jason was like, "Hey, Vince, what do you think of this?" But I mean,
this isn't the Centaurians or the Inhumanoids. I mean, this is.
Oh, dude, Inhumanoids, greater than Mask.
That is maybe in 20 years of bad takes, that may be the worst take ever.
Those Inhumanoids monsters are great. Mm-hmm. It transforms from a rock.
Can we all agree, at least, can we get back to agreeing to say that the Centurions are whack?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We're back on track.
Visionaries was trash.
Visionaries with the holograms, I forgot about that.
Yeah, they were absolute trash.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
All right. What's in your travels, Boo?
Oh, he's Boo now because I shit on your mask.
Well, yeah, out of nowhere. Like it's like Matt Tracker's catching strays. You went from like praising Transformers to shitting
it was a lateral shift. Transformers and the mask.
You aggressively I love Transformers. It's awesome. Oh, but then G.I. Joe, which Jason loves, I think is corny. And then by the way, it's even worse than that is Mask, which you literally Mask was nowhere to be found, and you had to bring it up. And then
I was okay. Deeds, not words. I just don't get it.
That's right.
I don't.
It's not Action Force. Mega Force.
That's $329. I'm glad to have spent.
Great.
Yes.
I'll come over and look at them when you take them out of the boxes.
Can't wait. Well, that's if I take them out of the boxes. But
oh my
god. Well, we might as well keep that Energon universe train rolling. So, since Vince loves G.I. Joe, here's G.I. Joe number 8 by Joshua Williamson and Andre Milana on art, picking up from issue 7. Whereas this one, though, this one may have been one of my favorite issues of this run so far, because it was kind of a there was a little bit of downtime. There was just and there was a Transformers appearance, because Clutch comes back to the pit after kind of thinking he was going to drive away in the previous issue, but between the little rehearsal at the beginning of the episode and then Baroness taking some leave, only to be joined, of course, by CoverGirl, and that was great. The little back and forth between Baroness and CoverGirl, and there's the introduction to another Cobra, the baddie, at the end of the issue. But yeah, I think now that that first arc is over, I'm hoping that Williamson can have some fun with the characters before the next major arc, where it might be. I'm hoping I'll enjoy the next arc more than and the first one was fine as far as setting things up, and it picked up after all the miniseries led up to it. But I don't know if I felt like it just went on too long, or it was just a little bit of maybe a little messier than I would have expected from Williamson. But this little breather we're getting right now, I'm enjoying. So yeah, in your travels, G.I. Joe from Skybound and Image Comics.
Nice. In your travels, I have a book that I don't think DAP ordered, but the next time Fantagraphics has a big sale, you should order, because it's something you'll enjoy. It is called The Wrestler by John Kenn Mortensen.
I did see that, yes.
John Kenn Mortensen mainly makes horror comics, Nightmare Factory being one that I know I've read, and I think Christmas Bestiary. This is also a horror comic, but it is the protagonist is a wrestler named the Sledgehammer, and he's this big bruising guy. Interestingly, and I have to say, it kind of added to my enjoyment of the book. I think the character of the Sledgehammer to me looks a lot like Lovable Oaf, Ed Luce's character. Yeah. And I was just kind of picturing reading the story that it was like Lovable Oaf getting sucked into hell. I don't know, like it kind of made me like enjoy the book a smidge more. But no, the premise is relative. It's not a new concept. Sledgehammer makes a deal with the devil early in his career to be invincible, and obviously he eventually will have to pay for that by giving up his soul. He is now toward the end of his career and largely washed up, and Old Scratch comes to see him and says, "Hey, I got a match for you," and takes him into the pits of hell to fight a gigantic demonic beast, from the pits of hell, and they have an epic match for his soul. That's really the whole premise of the book. But the art is very moody and dark, and like I said, it's like it's as if Ed Luce had made love with like a dark emo band. But really enjoyed it. Fanta's having a great year, I think. I think they've put out a ton of awesome stuff this year, and this is another one in it. It's a relatively small book, maybe like 150 pages, I'd say. But yeah, if you're a pro wrestling fan or you dig the classic, devil makes you a deal you can't walk away from, and then you have to pay the piper at some point. This is that, and it was well executed. So give it a check. It's called The Wrestler, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I can't use my mute button.
Ooh, okay.
Because every time I do, the microphone goes away.
Well, that's what you get for trying to mute us.
No, not you. I don't want people to hear when I'm typing.
Right.
Yeah. It's in bad taste, I think. Well, hopefully this wasn't in bad taste, and you come back next time, because we'll be here waiting for you. Go buy some comics. Anywhere. And we'll talk about them. Yeah, we'll talk about them next time. And do the thing that you got to do. We say this all the time. Say good night. David.
Good night.
Wow, did I really wait that long?
Yep. David.
Wow, nice. Everybody who listens to this is going to be like, do you like anything after like 1980?
You don't, but that's okay.
85 at the latest? I sometimes don't. Whatever. Awesome job, David. So please.
Oh, thanks.
Tell them that you love them so much.
So much.
We do love you so much. And don't forget, October 17th or the 19th.
Wow, you're pimping this hard.
We are going to be in Charm City. Well, because we don't go, this isn't like, we don't go to there. I mean, this is a rare appearance. So it could be another decade until we go back. Who knows? You could be 70 by the time we go back.
It could be.
So yeah, so October 17th or 19th, Baltimore Comic-Con.
Yeah, but see, I'm doing the math in my head. In like 11 episodes, how are we going to be there when I'm 70? Because like we have 11 episodes left.
Right.
Oh, thank you. I get a stinger at the end of that. That's the best.
That's right.
Bada boom. Hacha. I got to get one of you guys a symbol. And whenever somebody says something funny, just do a real life symbol.
A hi-hat.
That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're out of here. We love you.
Our boys Esmond and Cumber are coming to Baltimore.
Awesome.
Right. Yep.
That's a fine thing.
It is.
Yes, indeed.
BKV's coming. Maybe we'll have dinner with him again.
Maybe we'll have dinner with him, Vince.
Yeah, making puppy dog eyes with each other. It's like, did I come here with two other people? I don't think, did I?
We got at the far end of the fucking boat
and
and shit.
You
That's
fucking
great.
sat and didn't save me a spot.
No, that's not how it went.
That is not how it went.
No.
Because you were schmoozing. You had to make
Yeah.
it
We
round.
managed to sit together as
We all
always, and
glad-handed.
somehow
No.
there wasn't a spot.
No, you were just like,
No,
oh,
Vince was
I'm
sitting across from Ryan. I was sitting across from Sanford. I was sitting next to Ian. It was a great show. I mean, it was a great night. But
pardon me for sitting down
left
next to our host who graciously bought us dinner for like the 15th show in a row.
who just happened to be sitting next to Brian K. Vaughn.
If we're being fair in recounting the story, neither I nor the other people sitting next to me had any earthly idea that the empty spot was for Brian K. Vaughn until he showed up after the rest of us were all seated.
Right. I get it.
It just so happens that I won Life's Lottery, which is not the first or the last time that's happened to me.
Yep. And you're all like,
Winning.
oh, do you wear socks to bed? No, I don't like wearing socks to bed. Do you like cold sheets? And they're talking about these things. And they're looking into each other's eyes. And me and Dapper down there like, what the hell?
Listen, we are two beautiful, bald, pale white men who win at life. Like, we had a lot in common.
Yeah, on that note, I think we should say goodbye.
Later days.
Peace.
That's it for that one.